All right, guys, we are out here. We had the inevitable issue of our RV furnace that's not working. We're having the part where it turns on, you hear the fan, then it fires and lights, but then goes right back out. And then it does that 3 times, goes into soft lockout. So we're having that issue. So thinking about it, we're thinking, okay, it almost can't be the sail switch because it is firing. Usually the sail switch tells it to open the valve to do what it's got to do. But we're going to think it's not that. Not saying it isn't, but we're not going to say it's not. So what we need to do is pull our furnace out and get to all the components and replace a bunch of stuff. You know, most of the people, they do it with the voltmeter. You can test certain things here and there, but since we already have the parts, because we keep extra parts on hand, we're just going to throw a couple easy parts at it to see if that is the issue. You have the sail switch, the limit switch, the control board, and probably your igniter, because they're the ones that sense the flame. That's more so what it seems like for us is it doesn't sense the flame and it goes right back out and tries it again. So it could be our igniter or it could be the board. The boards are known for going out because they are those cheap Chinese made boards. So we do have a Dinosaur Electronics board for ours that we could put on it if we need be, but it was our backup one in case this one went, so this might be the time. But unfortunately, as you can see, these new RVs, a lot of them don't have outside access to the furnace. So they got it buried inside Jenga style, you know, all Tetris in there, hard to get. So when we go inside, you'll see the big grate. We can see the furnace, but there's no way we're going to be able to get to everything and get it out. So we're going to have to take a whole cupboard panel out so we can have access to the back, get the vents off. And you'll see when we get in there, there's screws that connect this thing to the floor. The front one's easy to get to. The other one's got like maybe an 1.5 to 2-inch gap, and it's all the way down at the bottom. So it's almost impossible to get to it without buying some extensions and stuff, which we have done. We'll show you those when we get in there. But we're going to go inside right now and pull that panel off and see if we can get this furnace pulled out of here. Remember, what you're going to want to do is turn your gas off first, so when you disconnect the gas line in there, you're not having a bunch of pressure on you. And just a disclaimer, I am not an RV repair expert or professional or tech or anything like that. I just have enough knowledge to do what I need to do. So don't take this as professional advice. It's just what I did, and so it worked for us. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go shut off our gas and get inside and try the next step. All right, we are inside to get to this furnace. Now you can see we have this big vent. This is our intake vent. We're going to take this cover off. It does have the Anderson type screws, but you can use the Phillips on them. We're going to take them. There's 4. You'll see we'll have direct access to our furnace, but not the back part of our furnace where we need to get to all the hoses and stuff. All right, pretty good so far. So I don't know if you guys can see it yet, but we'll bring you over here closer. Our furnace sits right here, and the end of our furnace is probably right here. So we need to take this panel out in order to get to all the ductwork that goes behind it, and then we can undo our wires and stuff. And I believe, yeah, all the wires in this RV are put on with the Wago connectors, which is nice because it's easy to put on. So we're going to take a picture of what's what, and then we'll unplug it. You'll have 4 wires. You're going to have 1 for power negative, then the 2 blue ones will be for your thermostat. So we're going to try to nicely pop this out. They don't put these RVs together that well anyway. As nicely as we can anyway. Well, broken piece. You'll probably have that. And they put them all together with those staples, and trying to get back in there to get it stapled back on, that's not going to be fun either. So we got this one corner piece off, set that to the side. This one's connected to the wood pretty good here, so I'm going to try to get it off without breaking any more pieces off. Like that. Eventually I want to take part of the space in here and turn it into a little shelf anyway, so I'm not overly concerned about it. I'll get you guys closer, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 ducts right here. We're going to mark where the ducts went in relation to where they are right now. It might not matter, but for the sake of putting them back exactly the way they are, we're gonna do that. Now we're gonna try to get this piece of wood out of here in one piece. There we go. Not the best way for them to do this, but would have been nice to have that outside access. So let me bring you guys closer and show you what we're up against here. And then you'll see there's 4 wires to get the fuel hose or the gas hose, and then the 4 vents. And then I'll show you the screws that one screw in the back is going to be a bear. So let's get you a closer view. All right, this is the view of our furnace. It fills up this cupboard pretty good. That's why I said this whole space here, I could make it look like a cubby or something. I mean, it gets a little warm in there, so don't put nothing you're worried about messing up. You can see these things aren't put together very well. They're overlapped back there and everything. I got this giant hole in the floor that goes up where everything comes up through. But we have the 4 ducts. There's 1 out of the top and 3 out of the back. We got them already marked. There's number 2 there, 1 up top, and so forth. You got your propane line right here. When you take this off and put it back on, like I said, make sure you turn off your propane, bleed your lines through your stove. And then when you put them back on, we'll get to that, but you could try with the leak detector, make sure you don't have no leaks. And then over here, you're going to see we have the Wago plugs holding all the wires together. Like I said, 2 are power, the rest are your thermostat. So we want to take a picture of how these went so we can put those back exactly the way they came. We don't want to mess that up. And then just to point out, you're going to have to take another Anderson plug off right there. And you can see the gap from here to here is hardly anything. See if I can get you guys in there. You can see the other screw holding this to the floor is way down there. So trying to get to that, it's not going to be easy, but hopefully all our extensions will get to that and we can get it. But that's what we're going to do right now. Get that and unhook these vents. These only twist out of here. You just give them a twist, they'll come up out. Then you can set them to the side. And then if you're not familiar with the Wagos, they're the flip style. You just flip up the orange lever and then the wire pulls right out. But don't forget to take a picture so you know exactly how to put them back. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to take our vents off, undo our wires, then we'll do our gas line last. So let me get to that done. All right, this is our contraption to use to get behind the furnace to get that last screw out. You can see we have an extension and then a 1-foot Phillips bit. We bought the bit set and also a couple extensions, so we know what we got. So that one should be long enough. Hopefully it's not too long. We're going to use that. We're going to take a magnetize the tip. So once we get the screw out, we can get it up out of there because it's not an easy spot to get to. So we're going to magnetize the tip with that. All the stuff we're using, so if you guys are looking to do this job, we'll leave links in the description. They are probably most likely affiliate links for Amazon, so that helps support the channel, and we appreciate that. So we're going to get this magnetized, try to get that last screw out of there. All right, guys, we did manage to get behind there. It took two extensions, so it was 2 feet. Plus we had the atomic, which is a little shorter. That worked, and we magnetized the tip, which allowed us to get the screw. We got all the vents off. They are set back in here. The top vent. We are now going on to our fuel line. We made sure the fuel is off, and we lit the stove to bleed off the pressure. And then after we're done with the fuel line, we will go to these wires. We already took pictures of these, so we know exactly how they go back. So makes it easier for you when you put it back together. And the Wago plugs make that 100 times easier. If you don't have the Wago plugs, you got crimp connections, I advise you to buy Wago plugs and replace them with those instead. Makes this a whole lot easier next time. So we're going to do that. We're going to get this off. We got an adjustable wrench for that. We'll get that off. And this kind here doesn't have a tape or anything on this end because it's a tapered end, which it seals itself. And then we'll hit these and try to finagle this thing out here. So let me get that line off. Okay, guys, we have it out of there. Mission accomplished, blood drawn, all that kind of stuff. You can see the vents over there. It slides on. Those are the ones that are on the outside of your rig. But we got this out. We're going to take it outside and bench test everything that we do. We'll show you all the parts that it could be, all the tools you're going to need. We also have a test hose to hook up the propane tank. And we're going to hook the wires up to a 12-volt battery using the Wago plugs also. So let's get this out on the bench and we will test out a bunch of stuff and hopefully get this thing working. But first we're going to hook it up and show you what it is currently doing. As far as it's not staying lit, it'll fire, but it won't stay lit. It could be, you guys can see it, that control board down in there. Your sail switch is down here somewhere. On the back is going to be the limit switch. And then in the top, we'll show you that when we get the cover off, is where your igniter is and stuff. So let's get this outside on the bench. We'll get a better look at it. All right, guys, we have the furnace out here on the bench. Before we get started tearing this apart, taking the cover off, I want to show you the few things that we have and why we're doing it the way we're doing it. Like I said, you could use a meter. Like you'll see a lot of the videos using a meter, which normally I probably would to try to diagnose it. But since I don't see no videos of how to do it if you don't have a meter or don't know how to use a meter, it's more so throwing the parts at it. And there's only a few parts that it can be. So I'm going to show you what you're going to need for that. First, you have your control board. For this particular furnace, which, if I remember right, is the SFV-35FQ, the Suburban furnace. This board fits a lot of these furnaces. This is the fan 50 plus pins from Dinosaur Electronics, way far superior board, USA made, so higher quality. Another part you might need is the igniter. These are all parts we keep here just in case we had a problem. So unfortunately we did, so we're ready for it. Here's your igniter. It could be that. You also have your sail switch. It could be the sail switch. You could have that issue on there, but I don't believe that's our issue on here, but you never know. And then you have the limit switch, which goes on the back of, actually back here once we get the cover off. It'll be back here. We could try that. It's an easy plug and do. And then if you do have to get in there to do the igniter, you're going to need a gasket. It's better just to replace the gasket. These are only a few bucks. So that's really the only things that it can be on here if you're going to have an issue. So it'll be one of those. We have our test line set up here, so we can hook this up to the propane tank, the 20 pounder, and then hook it up to our furnace right here, and we'll be ready to go. And we also have our leak detector solution, so we can I mean, you can use soap and water if you want, but this just bubbles up a little better, I think. I'm going to use this when I connect it here. I'm also going to test my jig that I did here and make sure none of those connections are leaking once I get gas to it. But that's pretty much all we're going to need. So, and then like I said, the WAGO connectors, which I tell you, these things they're great plugs. So if you don't have them, put those in for sure. You got the four wires, like I was telling you. The red is going to be your hot wire, the positive. Yellow will be your negative. And the two wires are going to be like your thermostat. So once you bring those together inside the WAGO plug, it's going to tell it to turn on and you want heat. So that's what those are going to be for. And then we have a 12-volt battery over here, regular RV battery with the WAGOs also, that we're going to just put these into, when it's time, and then we'll hook this up when we need it. So we have that set up. That's all we're going to need. But we're going to take this case off just to make it easier to get to everything. All right, as you can see, we have the furnace outside of the case. There's like 8 screws, and it was a tight fit. It's quite a challenge. It just slides out. So it would slide back in this way when we go to put it back in. It's not an easy pull out. It's challenging, and I recommend wearing some gloves because a lot of these parts are sharp. And you're going to get a bunch of this stuff that's coming off this burner from being used. It hasn't been used that much. We're down in Florida, so it doesn't get used that much right now. But all that paint's coming off the burner. Or not the burner, but the burn chamber. We're going to inspect all our wires and stuff like that. So we're going to set this to the side right now. And then you can see on the back of this, that is your limit switch. That's one issue that could be an issue, or one problem that could be the issue because it's not sensing or it's defective. So what we're going to do first is we're going to hook the fuel up to this, and then we're going to get our power hooked up and see if we can get this running and see if it's making the same or having the same issue it did before we pulled it out. And we tried it like 5 times while I was in there. It did not work. But again, we still have our wires here. Make sure nothing's near the bird cage of the blower, and everything's clear here because you're going to get heat coming out of that. All right, one thing we did do is we switched out to this smaller pigtail because the other one had kind of a long, unmanageable hose. So we're going to get this hooked up. We're going to hook it up to the tank first. We're going to see if we can mimic what issue we were having out here on the bench. See if it does the same thing. You know how that goes. You have it inside, it gives you the problem. You pull it outside, you don't have the problem. So that's probably going to be the case. We'll see. But either way, there's still a problem if that's happening. So we're just going to have to find what's causing that issue. All right, and before you go to turn on the propane, you want to turn it on really slow, because a lot of these have that, if it senses a fast flow of fuel, it'll activate that stop. So you want to turn this on really slow at the tank. Just like that. Just take a few seconds to turn it on. Because if you turn on too fast and you can't get this to fire, it's probably you got it locked out. So we got that turned on. Now again, like we said, we set up our setup with this line we got going to a regular marine battery, or deep cycle battery. And we're just going to be hooking our wires up to these. Our red one off the furnace is going to be our hot one, which is the all red here. So we're going to hook that in. Get it in there, flip the lever. That's why I like these. Your next will be your yellow, which is going to be your ground. That'll go on our particular one. It's a white or a red and black wire. So we got that in there. Now the only next thing to do is to join these two blue wires, which, like I mentioned before, acts as the thermostat. So once you put these together, it's going to think that you're calling for heat. It's going to try to fire this thing. We're going to see if it'll do the same thing it was doing in the RV. I knocked this around and everything inside and tried to get it to light. It wouldn't light. Oh, it would, but it'd go right back out. But we're going to try right here, see what we got. You can hear it just click the fan on. In a few seconds, it'll click that regulator. That lets you know your sail switch is working, and it should try to fire. I'm going to hold my hand here and see if I can feel it. Get you guys closer. You can hear it click. Here's that click. It just fired. As I said, it's not doing the same problem it did. It's actually still running, so that could mean we have a short somewhere or something. Something's loose. So I'm going to shut this off. There we go. I got to shut off. And then we're going to look everything over, because it shouldn't do that, the problem we were having. So we'll look at the burner, the igniter. I'll make sure everything's good there. We do have the better board. We might just change the board out and keep this one as a backup. We'll check for looseness in our igniter. Our high limit switch, I don't think that's the issue, because it did just fire. So we got something intermittent. So we're going to let this cool. We'll come back. We'll take the side cover off here that has the gasket and everything, and then we can get to our igniter. That also tells the board that it senses a flame to keep going. So we're going to check for that being loose and get this going. So let's let this cool down. We'll be back in a minute. All right, since we're checking this whole thing over, because we can't exactly, it fired on the bench, but it doesn't fire inside, we're just going to check everything. So first thing we're going to do is go in here and look at the burner and the igniter. We got to take out all these screws that you see right here. Want to get closer? All these screws you see right here. And then down in here, there's one nut for that fuel line. You're going to need a crow's foot, 16 millimeter. We're going to use a 17, which ain't quite the right size, but of course they like to skip that size in your sets. So that's going to help you get that out, because that's in a tight spot. So let's pop these out first. This is the part where you're going to need that gasket underneath here, because it's really a one-time use. And a lot of times your igniter will have, it'll be loose. So that's what we're trying to figure out. We got those. Now we're going to go down in here and we're going to pull that one off. I got to get the right size ratchet because we got the wrong size.
You need it.
All right, we got our size down in here. We're just going to get that loose. There we go. Like I said, ours is the wrong size, but it will work. That's going to make it that much easier for you when you go to get it out, because they don't make the area the biggest. You got small hands, maybe? Yeah, my hands ain't working. So I'll just do this most of the way. There we go. Now we'll pull this out easily. This, you'll see this like butyl tape here. This helps seal that passage across and helps isolate the line. So make sure you don't lose any of that. There we go. And you can see here's the orifice. That'll let you know if you're having a problem and you're not getting delivery. Ours is nice and clear, so that's good. We're going to set that aside. And here, as you can see, this is our igniter. We want to feel the end of that. It feels pretty tight. I don't feel that being loose at all. So that's looking good. Like I said, we're in Florida, so this has hardly been used at all. You can see on the new electrode, it's the same thing. I feel this one, it's nice and tight. Same with that one, it's nice and tight in there. There's no play in that. That feels pretty good. So I'm going to say that's in good shape. See how you can't reuse your gasket? Because it comes off, like part of it will come off with the... That's why you'll need that new gasket. Only a few bucks, keep a few on hand. So I'm going to say this part's in good condition. So I'm gonna put this back together with the new gasket. Then we'll go on top. I'm probably gonna switch the board out just for peace of mind, you know, because it's firing right now, but it might not fire in there, and it's not easy to pull out. So we'll change to the Dinosaur Electronics board, the fan 50 plus pin. That will work better. It's a better board anyway. And then use this board as a emergency backup if something did happen with it. But let me get this scraped off, change that, and close that back up. All right, before I close this up, I want to make sure my electrode is an 1/8 inch from the burner. You can use an 1/8 inch Allen key. Just place it between the electrode and the burner, and you'll know if you're in the right size. We're perfect, so we know that's good also. So like I said, I feel good about everything in there. Like I said, nothing's loose. So we're just going to get our gasket, put this on, put the thing, hook it back up. Now it'll be a little challenging to get that part we use the crow's feet for, because of the it has to be lined up just right. So hopefully you can get your fingers to start it. You might get lucky enough, but not too difficult. All right, we got our new gasket. Set it in place here. And we're going to close that back up. Back the same way you took it off. You got that little viewing window. Remember about that butyl tape? You want that in the same area. Now I'm only going to put a couple screws in right now just to hold that gasket in place, so we don't get it out of line, and then we'll hook up our hose over here. So we're just going to get a couple of them started. Because we want that maneuverability when we're going to hook up the bottom piece. So we got a couple of them started. Now we're going to get this placed down in there and hopefully get it started easy enough. But that's all you got to do. Just reverse what you did, hook that up in there, and you're ready to go. All right, now that we got our cover on down there to cover back up the electrode in the burner, we're going to go to the board. Like I said, for just peace of mind, we're going to replace the board. This is with the Dinosaur Electronics board. If you're replacing like your OEM board like this one on the Suburban furnace, and it's a newer one, then you don't have to change anything on this board. But if you're upgrading an older furnace that doesn't have these certain ones, you'll have to change these jumpers. You can see them right here. But there is instructions to tell you where to put the jumpers, and it comes with the other wires so you can bypass some of the stuff if you're trying to upgrade to a better board. We don't have to. It's all going to be plug and play for us, so we're going to do one wire at a time and keep doing those. And this just sets into like a clip on there, and then it'll pull out. So we're just going to change each wire one at a time so we don't mix anything up. And on this board, you can either do the plug, this flat plug, the same way, or you can go in from the top. But since it's so close to the top of the case, we're still going to plug in from the side here. But that's what we're going to do, one at a time. First, we'll start with the igniter one. They might be hard to come off like that. Yeah. But don't break them as you're trying to get them off. So you might use a little pair of pliers or something to pull them off. Maybe I'll start over here. Yeah, that works better. All right, like I was mentioning, we have to get these off. They're going to be a little challenge because they're like pinched on there. So just wiggle them off. You'll get it. Like there's the igniter one. And one thing I was noticing with the Dinosaur board compared to the new board, when you look at these wires, pay attention to the tabs, because one's skinny, one's fat. On this board, they're one way. On this board, they're opposite. But they do say it blower and power. It says blower and power here. You just want to make sure you put the right terminal on the right spot. So like I said, we're going to do one at a time. This one here is our blower, which is going to go to this one. Nice tight fit there. Good time to check all your wires, make sure they're tight. This one here is the smaller one. You can see the small tab there. We're going to put that on this one. That clicked in nicely. Our blower wire. All right, we got our last wire off. And for this, you'll see these standoffs on the board. They just slide into these grooves here. You're going to put it in and slide it in. There's a little pinch spot here for you. So we got that final one off. We're going to put this board in place. Make sure the wires are routed right. Like this. Plug this last one on. Make sure it's the right way. Just like that. We're going to set this in the grooves. Push it in until it clamps in. it'll be a tight fit. I don't like how that fits, but it's in there. It's a weird fit, really. But it is in there. I mean, it's the same as this board. These back ones won't catch anything because it's a longer board. But we're going to secure that down with a couple pieces of tape or zip ties or something so it's a little bit tighter board there. But now that we got that switched over, we're good on that part. The other thing we could switch over is that high limit switch on the back here. Like I said, it's not that expensive of a part if you can find it right. It has changed since we bought ours. We bought ours for $6. Last I knew, it went up almost 3 times as much. But if you want to change that, go ahead and change that just for peace of mind. We didn't do our igniter because that's in good shape. We did the board. Our sail switch is obviously working because that's allowing it to open the valve and let fuel through. But you can look at it, make sure you got no hair buildup or anything on the switch. That'll be here on the side. You guys can see it. Your sail switch is down here. Ours appears to be working just fine. So that shouldn't be an issue. So we're going to finish buttoning this up, put it back in the case, and then hopefully everything we did makes it nicer for inside. So we're going to get our fuel unhooked, make sure your tank's off. Well, actually, after we get this all done, we're going to do a test fire. Then we'll get this unhooked, put it inside. So let me finish buttoning this up. All right, we got our board in there. One modification we had to do, as you can see, the Dinosaur electronics board is about, oh shoot, that's about a little over a half inch wider. So it hangs over a little bit more, which is fine. It still gets enough airflow through the top. But the mounts for this doesn't line up with the mounts in this cover. So what we decided to do, you get this back mount, which is in there, which is fine. We decided to take hot glue underneath this mount and glue it down to there. And we also did it over here in this corner just to give it, so now you can see the board's tight, it doesn't want to move. That's what we decided to do. Worked out pretty good too. So now I ain't got to worry about, drilling holes or anything like that. So now we're ready to do, oh, one thing to do when you're changing the board, don't forget to unplug the power. We almost forgot about that, but we got that done. We got our high limit switch has been replaced. That's simple. We even did the sail switch. The only thing we didn't replace on this is the igniter. Our igniter looked great. So we're going to try this now and get it going. The only reason we replaced everything, like I said, this is the one where you're doing it without your meter. So we're just doing everything. So it's kind of a throw the parts at it type of thing. If you don't know how to use the meter, don't have the meter, don't have the time, but you do have the parts with you, which, like I said, if you're full-time RVing like we are, it's good to keep those parts on hand. So that's what we did. We're not exactly sure what's wrong, but we're just going to keep what we got because it wanted to light outside the cabinet. So right now we're just going to test what we did, make sure everything that we did works. Then we'll put it back in the case and put it inside. We'll turn the propane on. All right, we got that propane turned on. Cool thing about the Dinosaur electronics board, they got a little LED indicator light on top. You'll see it light up when it calls for, like when we hook up the thermostat, we call for heat. You won't see it because we're not close enough, but we'll try to get you a close-up of this. It'll light up a certain color, and then when it ignites, it changes the color to another color. So we'll get you close so you can see that when we do it. All right, we got you guys close enough. You can see the LED right there. Hopefully you can see it light up when we do this. We're going to call for heat. See, it's lit up green. Once it fires, I think it changes to red if it's working properly. If that don't come on, you got a problem in your wiring. See if we did this right. It just fired. You guys probably heard the click. And it changed to red. So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Everything's working. We're going to get this back in the case, which is the reverse of what we did before. And then we might put some of that silver tape around the case a little bit because it leaks so much. But we'll put some silver tape around there and make it a little more efficient. So we're going to get this shut off. We uncalled for heat. It's going to cool itself down. We'll get it put back in, shut off our propane, and we should be good to go. All right, we got this all back together in the case, set and screwed up. One thing we want to do is we notice so much hot air leaks out of all these edges because it's not a very tight fit. So we're going to take some of our duct tape, our aluminum tape, and wrap it around where the bigger gaps are just to make this more efficient. so we don't get air blowing out of spots. It's useless blowing inside the cabinet. So we're going to put it around these flanges here. There are like air gaps along this thing where it pops out. I don't really think we need to do that as much. We'll just get around here where most of it leaks. And then a couple of the ducts where they go in here, they're a little loose. A lot comes out. So we're going to put a little around that too. But that's after we get it in the cabinet. And also, we'll show you when we get inside. Inside the cabinet, this is only 1.5 inches, 2 inches from the wall. And this gets pretty hot. So that paneling they have in there is so close, it makes you worry. So I'm going to put, I got reflective heat shield. I'm going to put on the wall in there where this sits, just to stop it from getting hot. You know, more peace of mind. So I don't have to worry about this potentially catching that wall on fire or causing an issue. I mean, it does have the air gap. They're made that way. This should be fine. But for me, I like to make it better when I do it. So I'm just going to tape this up. You'll see. Just going to put some along the edge here, around the outside of this part, and especially here because it's a huge gap right there. We're going to cover that up. Then we'll go and put it inside. Okay, we are back in the cabinet where it goes. You remember when we took it out, what a bear it was. We got that cleaned out, a little dust and sawdust and stuff they were making. You can see we have some silver tape on that pipe. When they made this, that pipe was no way lined up at all. So it's a vent for like the gray tanks. So it was, I mean, it's at such an angle it would never hook up. So they never had that hooked up. So I taped it for now until I could find a flex joint I could put there to take up that gap. But anyway, you can see this wall is just that thin paneling, and you're only that far from it with this furnace, and it gets hot. So what we bought was, we bought this silver reflective stuff to put on the wall. It's the kind, you can see it's a little bit thicker there to put some of the barrier between you and the wall. I'm going to put that up just for peace of mind. It's going to make me feel better about it. And then we can get that put in there. Then we can button everything up and see what's going on. Also, what I was thinking of doing is with these vents, I know like the one in the bathroom blows super hard. The one in the bedroom barely blows at all. So I might be able to move these vents around, because on the back of this furnace, like this top one is the one that went to the bathroom. That one seems to blow pretty hard. And then the center one on the back blows really hard. So I might be able to pick where I want those so I get more heat blowing harder somewhere else. So like the bedroom one, I can put that towards the center of the back. That'll get heat to the bedroom better. And then for the living room, I could do the next one that blows the hardest. But you can do that while you're in here. I'm going to get this stuff put on the wall, and then we can get this furnace put back in here. All right, guys, we got it all backed in here, ducked in the way we want. We did forego the insulation because the insulation we got is too thick and it brings it close. And we did a flame test on that insulation. It's not very flame resistant. So we're going to not put that one in. We'll get the thinner kind that goes against there that you see in like race cars and stuff like that they use on the firewalls, and that'll fit down behind it. We'll be able to get it with the furnace in there. But everything's hooked up. We're going to turn on the thermostat and call for heat. And of course, we have one of the smart thermostats, so it takes a little bit for it to respond to that. But you'll hear the blower kick on. We'll see if that light comes on the board, and then hopefully she stays lit. We're going to watch the board there, see if I can get you guys in there. It's going to get loud. Slow process. Yep, you guys can see the green light. When it flames up, it should turn red, like we've seen out there when we tested it. We have ignition. It flamed out already because it turned back to green. It's doing the exact same thing it did before. Should try one more time. It might be because there was air in the line. That's what I'm hoping. There's the second time. It's doing the exact same thing. So far, I doubt there's that much air. But I can't, it works outside, but it don't work in here. Nope, so she still don't run in here. So the only difference in here than outside is the thermostat. So we could have a thermostat issue possibly. It keeps shutting it back off. I'm not sure, but we're going to check out a couple things, see what we find. Man, was that a challenge. Ended up being something you would never guess it to be. So we took all this whole, you've seen us, we took this whole thing out, we checked everything, replaced a bunch of stuff just for peace of mind. We put it back in here and it still don't run. So we're like, okay, what's the difference? It was running on the bench. So there's two differences. We ran it, there's a thermostat that could have been the difference, and the propane line could have been the difference. So we hooked it up to our battery in here, to our wires. It turned on, did the same thing. So obviously it isn't the power issue. Then we brought in our propane tank, hooked up our regulator to this, started up no problem. So we're like, okay, we got some issue with the propane line. So we go out to the propane tanks and we do all the stuff in case it got locked out. You turn on fast or something, it activates that gas prevention valve thing. We redid all that, reset it all. Still same issue. What it ended up being, we have one of those auto switch regulators where you can switch from tank to tank. The one side of our regulator just has a slow flow. It will not. This is the side we've been using for the last couple of years. There's no problem. Now it won't work on that side. We got to switch it to the other tank on the other side. We'll show you that outside, and then it gives us full flow and work. So that one half of that regulator is bad. So you would never guess that unless you bought the meter you needed to hook up to this fuel line and see that, or this gas line, and see that it wasn't getting the right flow. So most of us normal everyday people aren't going to probably have the tools to hook up to that and see your fuel flow. So it was a challenge trying to chase it down, but we got it. We're going to order a new regulator. We'll leave links to all the stuff we use down below. So if you're having the same kind of issue where it's firing and then shutting right back off, it could be a fuel delivery issue, or a gas delivery issue. So don't forget to check your regulator, switch sides if you have it, or hook up on a separate tank like we did just to see if you can eliminate that, because it could possibly be that. It's frustrating we had to pull this out, but it was part of the yearly service anyway, so it was nice to do. We got familiar with it, pulled it out, and then that regulator the whole time. So let's go outside. I'll show you which one we're talking about, and you'll know what we're talking about when you're looking at that and see if the problem happened to you. All right, we're out here at our regulator on the tanks. We always had our set to this side as our first tank we run down. Once this is empty, we flip over to this. You can see the arrow on the regulator. We've got it pointed to this tank now, but it was over here. On this side of that regulator, it has reduced flow. Not working. Don't know why. Something in there is slowing down the flow. So we turned it to this side. Works great. I mean, we even switched the tanks around, everything. It's this regulator on that side. So don't forget to check that on yours. You might have that same issue. It's crazy, although we went through to figure out what the issue is, but hopefully it saves some of you guys some time when you're looking to do something like this, if you're having the same issue. Because if you had to spend that much time or pay for that much time on a tech coming out, you'd be in pretty deep. So just don't be afraid to try it yourself, but don't bypass your regulator. It could potentially be your regulator. So we're all back up in business now. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or concern, you can leave them down below. We will leave links to all the stuff we use. There'll probably be affiliate links through Amazon. We appreciate that support. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. We see a lot of you aren't subscribed. You watch, but you don't subscribe, which is great. We appreciate you watching. But hit that subscribe button, help the channel out. Give it a thumbs up, let them know you liked it. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Try something new.